Hey, Mike.
Hey, Tim.
So you've got a concept which has a little bit of a difficult word to try and remember. It's anti-fragility.
That's it. Yeah, anti-fragility. So we all understand what it means when something is fragile. If there's a delivery and it's got, be careful, fragile on it. Maybe it's something that can be broken, could be electronics, it could be nice plates and crockery or glass, things that can smash and break. And once they're broken, there's no coming back from it, right?
Yeah.
There's no mending it. So we understand what fragile means. So anti-fragile means the opposite of that. So when something is fragile, when it gets impacted, it gets worse. It breaks, it gets destroyed, its value decreases. When something is anti-fragile, it means that when it's impacted, it actually increases in value and becomes stronger, not weaker.
So it doesn't just mean it either breaks or it doesn't break. It means it breaks, it doesn't break, but it actually gets stronger as well.
That is exactly correct. Yes. So if something is fragile, it breaks, it's weaker, it's destroyed, it's damaged. If something is resilient, resilience means we are not impacted by the thing, we are not affected by the bad situation. And therefore, with resilience, we do not get better, we stay where we are, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Whereas with anti-fragility, this concept, it means that when something impacts us, we actually improve, we actually get stronger, not just remain where we would be in a when we have a state of resilience. So I think this is really, really interesting because I think all of us can actually think of times in our lives or situations that we've been in or situations we've seen other people in that appeared to be bad and yet actually gave us something that made us better, made us stronger, and gave us something that we needed to actually improve. It actually comes from a book, and the author uses three examples to describe this, and the examples come from Greek mythology.
Mhm.
The first example describes someone who is fragile, and they use Damocles in this example. Now, Damocles had the sword hanging above his head. So, of course, if the sword were to fall and impact him, he would die. So, he is therefore fragile in that situation. When he gets impacted, he gets weaker, he loses, and he decreases in value. An example of something that is resilient is the phoenix. Now, Harry Potter fans may also be aware of the phoenix. This is the bird that when the
Mhm.
bird dies, it burns, it turns to ashes, and then from the ashes, another phoenix arises. Now, what's important here is the new phoenix is not better or worse than the old one. It's the same. It comes back the same. So when it's impacted, when it dies, turns to ash, and then the same thing returns. So we can make a comparison to resilience here, where the impact results in the same and remaining at the same level. And the anti-fragile example is the Hydra.
Mhm.
Now, some of you may be aware of the Hydra, maybe not. The Hydra is effectively a multiple-headed dragon or snake
Yeah.
creature. So it has, let's say, three heads, and it's kind of one of the bad kind of mythological creatures. So the hero would fight the Hydra, but every time you cut off one of the heads, two grow back. So you cut
Mhm.
one head off, now it's got four heads. You cut another head off, now it's got five. You cut another head off, now it's got six, etc. And so the Hydra is an example of an anti-fragile creature. When it's impacted, when it's attacked, when it's damaged, it doesn't get worse. It doesn't stay where it was. It actually becomes stronger as a result of that effect. So anti-fragility, I think it's a really, really interesting concept. And as I said, I think we can all look at situations and maybe see that this was either somewhere where we were anti-fragile or where we had the opportunity to be anti-fragile and actually improve from it. Now, Tim, do you have any examples of anti-fragility?
I was thinking one example comes from a sales environment. We were working with a group of they were kids really. I mean, they were like 20, 21, 22. And they were a team of hunting sales. And it's 20 years ago. It was for a mobile telephone company. And they were trying to win internet contracts. And one of the things that they would do was that they would go to the opening of a new apartment building when you have an apartment building with 50, 60, 100, 200 apartments in a complex. And then people would be able to go and open their doors for the first time. And so, you'd have families and mum and dad and young couples normally carrying a potted plant. Yeah. So, they would kind of bring a plant along with them to put in there. That's the only thing that they would have. They put their plant in their new apartment, and then they would say, "There we go. We've taken ownership of the apartment." And our people would go over to these new homeowners, and they would try and sell them an internet contract. And and there was one person. His name was Zolly, and he was incredible because he would go to them. He would pitch, say the words that he was told to say on the script. They would say no, and you could see them physically saying no, thanks. Yeah, and they would carry on walking, and he would walk with them. Yeah. So he would carry on walking with them. And most people would stop after one or two steps because they felt uncomfortable. He just carried on walking with them. And his results were way better than anybody else's. And we were looking for what he did differently. And the only thing we could observe was the fact that he carried on walking with them. And so when we were asking him about it, we were saying, "Don't you feel uncomfortable when they've already said no, but you carry on walking with them?" And he says, "Yeah, I feel very uncomfortable. And I walk with them to make myself feel more comfortable and basically, apologize. But while I'm apologizing, give them a good reason to think about maybe they do need an internet contract." And it was very interesting. So, and I never really thought about it in the terms of anti-fragility, but he was attacked, if you like, by a no, yeah, by somebody negating his request. And whereas most people would say, "I'm sorry to waste your time. Please excuse me. Have a great day," etc. He would just carry on walking with them and say those things, but then add on to it at the end. "Well, you are going to need an internet contract, and I can give it to you half price." Blah 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 blah, and that worked for him a lot. And what was really interesting was that when we gave him this feedback, we also spoke to all of the other sales reps that were there as well. And they said, Zolly does do that. He walks more than we do. He's always disappearing into the apartment block with, loads of flowers and taking them up to the. What does he do? And so they all started doing it. Yeah. And they all started increasing their results. There was a clear increase in results from across the team because they were all walking more. And this means they were all confronting themselves with the stress that was happening and then deciding to consciously address that situation and do something that made them feel better and stronger. So it's interesting.
I think that's a really cool example, Tim. Anti-fragility has a lot of applications and a lot of very clear examples like this one. So what we want you to do now is to think about this concept. And can you think of a challenging situation, an attack, a negative, something bad that happened, which actually resulted in some sort of improvement? So where you can say, look at your life and look at your career and say, that was an anti-fragile moment, or I handled that in an anti-fragile way. So any examples that you can share with each other now would be very interesting.